Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday, and hopefully a nice Tuesday for most people, especially in those warmer climates. And today we bring our friend Kenny P, Mr. Ken Patterson, back to the show, the MSP Initiative Live. I think you're muted there, Ken, whenever you get a moment. There it is.
I actually have my screen covered because I was trying to get my background set. It was taking its sweet time getting running. So just trying to get my
we'll give you a pass. We'll give you a pass because you're on travel time.
There you go. I'm going old school with my background, the old bus.
There you go. Ken is on the Channel Strong tour in the
baby.
How's the road, my friend?
Well, it's funny how I think everybody who sees us do these things thinks they're so glamorous, right? It's so glamorous to drive around in a tour bus, and it must be so cool to be, carted around and show up and just have all this fun, but they don't know about how hard it is and how much work goes into behind the scenes. And it was a typical day one, George, lots of activity trying to get things done. We spend a lot of time, Sade, who basically everything work, our backbone, got us all in line, and we stripped the bus down and then put everything back in neatly so that we can operate all week and work. And then of course we had our first night, our first long drive, and we had some issues and didn't get in till 3:30 a.m. But we made it and everybody was happy. The first event was great. The last time we were in Nashville, it was raining. If you remember, George, we were standing under a tent. And some subtle differences is that masks are no longer mandated. So we're still doing the social distancing thing. We're still being responsible and keeping our distance. But it was nice to take a photo where everybody could see each other's faces and say, oh, okay, now I know who was there, and not necessarily be covered up by that. And it was sunny out. It was cloudy, but it was nice out. So no rain. Unlike today, we're getting some rain here in St. Louis, but it's supposed to end by the time the event starts. So we should be good. So all those logistical stuff that happens, I will say the best part of the trip is the 2 hours we spend with the MSPs. That's what makes it all worth it, for all the time and effort we put in, wrapped around getting to these events, making sure we have everything that we need. Getting food there, getting drink there, and making sure that everybody's taken care of is.
There we go. There's some photos from yesterday. Looks like a fun group there.
Yeah. And the funny thing about these pictures is this was 45 minutes to an hour in. So we were like, hey, let's get some photos before we forget to, because you start playing cornhole. We started having a little bit of fun on the cornhole boards and got a couple of different teams going on the boards and had some fun there. So there was actually more people showing up in that second hour. Hey, stay on that picture. Go back to that picture for a second, if you can. So this young lady right here works for Fifth Gear, and she was out with us last time in the rain, stuck it out with us. This year she came out and she saw Slade and the guitars and all the stuff set up. So she said, oh, I wonder if they have guitars initially. We're like, oh, no, we have guitars. She's like, oh, I don't want to bother anybody. And Slade's so open and cool to everybody. I said, go talk to Slade. I'm not joking. 5 minutes later, I thought the radio was playing. It was her singing.
Oh, wow.
She did a great job. It was cool. Her and Slade's friend, Jordan set her up and played guitar while she sang a couple songs. It was really, really good. So the interaction was it's so cool to see people getting out. They were all excited that, this was just in some small way an event for people to get out to, but she did a great job, got up there and sang for a few and was really happy and excited. And it was just awesome. Really, really cool stuff.
That's cool. Well, yeah, it looks like it was a good time.
It was a very good time. By the way, good job on those chairs right there, George. They were a hit. People were loving on the chairs and super comfortable. But, once people are going and flowing, everybody was standing up. But when people wanted to sit and take a break, they pull those chairs over. See how they're nice and separated? See the good distance.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
I see that Miller Lite right there in the chair. So it's all good.
Yes, there's no shortage of that.
I'm glad it worked out. Well, for anyone that happens to be in the Midwest, we'd love for you to come out. Here's the event schedule. We've just done day one. There's 9 more to go. 4 this week, 5 next week. St. Louis today, Milwaukee, Chicago, Grand Rapids, Michigan, closes out the week. And we start off in Cleveland and then Pittsburgh, Columbus, Cincinnati, ending in Indianapolis. And if you're a race car fan, the Indianapolis 500 is happening during that holiday weekend there.
Yeah, so come tailgate with us, and then you can, get the rest of your weekend on for the race on Sunday.
100%. So on the website, mspinitiative.com, under Channel Strong, you can find this page. You can look at who's on the bus, and then you can also register if you are interested in coming out. So definitely, hey, come out. I mean, it's probably now's the time more than ever that it's okay to do that. Obviously, everybody has their own personal situation, but we think we're doing things in a good, safe way. So while I'm at it on this page, this is also day 2 of our monthly MSP giveaway. So if you go to channel, the mspinitiative.com and click on giveaway, just literally enter. That's all you have to do. And here are 10 prizes that our participating vendors are throwing into the mix. If you don't play, you can't win. So simple as that. Come on down and throw your name in the hat. Virtual trade show, if you would. I heard you had a gas problem. You couldn't find gas.
Yeah, I wasn't sure that Nashville was in that loop, but it's definitely in the loop. Yeah, we made the mistake of holding off on gas because we were trying to make sure we got all our plans in place. Being day 1, we had to make sure we were setting up new tents and new things and breaking down, opening new things. So we wanted to be really, really careful and critical to make sure we got everything up in time so that everybody's ready. So we did the event first, and then we went looking for gas. And it proved to be a little bit difficult. There were actually trash bags and bags over the handles of most of the pumps. And remember, the bus is diesel, so even in places where the pumps were working, it was only a couple of the regular gas pumps. The diesels were all covered up. And we were lucky we found a place, because about 2 hours later, in between Nashville and St. Louis, Slade was like, hey, let's hit this truck stop up here and just make sure everything's good. There were 18-wheelers lined up for 3 miles, and you had to get out of your truck and walk the 3 miles to go up to the station to be ready to come and do whatever you want to do at the rest stop, and then walk back to your trail. Oh yeah. So we're lucky we got the gas when we did. We did not hit that rest stop. We moved on past it, but I never.
Kind of reminds me of the biggest truck stop in
right, Iowa. Iowa 80. Yeah. It was similar to that, except for instead of being in rows of 18-wheelers that they could move through, it was one line off the exit, just going all the way up until the spot. So it was interesting. So there must have been fuel problems causing that delay and that backup.
Wow, let's talk about that. So on our powwow earlier in the week, while you were traveling, last week, we talked about the whole. Our friend Darren says it right. He's like, dude, look at this, and I'm like, and I said, this is probably one person clicked on the wrong link in their email. I mean, it sounds funny, but, and then there's articles coming out saying that a 4th grader could have hacked this thing, and I'm like, well, if you roll up to the fence and it's open Wi-Fi, probably easy for anyone to get on.
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Like, remember back in the day, you rolled down the neighborhood and you try and borrow internet from the next door. You didn't have it and they did, and the Wi-Fi was open. It's the same thing, right? Like basic internet hygiene or net, security stuff. We talk about security till we're blue in the face, but it sounds like, when you start having people literally can't get gas pushing their car down the road, that's probably not a good outcome.
Well, and you're talking about a company that can afford to put the security measures in place, right?
Well, they paid $5 million, so they surely had the money to sit around.
They had the money, right? They paid $5 million for that. It probably wouldn't have cost $5 million to put the damn thing in place. And then on top of that, they've inconvenienced all these people. And let's face it, part of the gas shortage is the people panicking and going out and buying barrels full of gas and filling up whatever.
Or plastic bags full of gas.
Yeah, plastic bags. You saw the Hummer that burned to the ground because the guy put it in the back and it exploded and caught the whole truck on fire. I'm like,
I didn't see that, but that's
yeah. And I'm like, I guess this guy doesn't need gas anymore. That's the least of his problems. I mean, the thing burned to a crisp on the side of the road. And the guy outside.
I would love to hear that insurance claim. My car blew up. Sir, how exactly did that happen?
Yeah. Well, you see, I had some Ziplocs with gasoline in the back.
And I'm sure they're gonna be like, I'm not sure that's covered.
Yeah. So yeah,
Here's
it's
a quick
crazy.
story. Here's a quick story for you. I drove 3 back-to-back Volkswagen Jetta diesels, TDIs, until Dieselgate happened, and
Yeah,
they came
right.
back and they're like, "Here, we'll take your car. We'll buy all these cars back." And I did. I sold them back 2 cars with over 100,000 miles on it, and I surely got a nice check back. But um, did you know? Completely side conversation. Did you know that, like, if for some, like, they're supposed to make the nozzle bigger or smaller so that a regular gas, like
Right.
unleaded gasoline, doesn't fit into the tank. But like they didn't do that. It was like a retrofit that they did after the fact. And I was one of those idiots. I happened to me twice. Once was my fault. I just reached for the nozzle, didn't pay attention. I put gas into the diesel.
Oof.
Yeah. But that's called contaminated fuel. It's covered by insurance. Did you know that?
Really? Oh
Yeah.
no.
$8,500. So that's an expensive mistake. And then the next time, like in New Jersey, where you can't even fill up your own gas tank, there's always a guy there or a girl. Yeah, that guy put in the wrong gas, and then so yeah. So twice I have gotten the I've gotten the wrong fuel thing. Darren's like, this exemplifies everything that's wrong with insurance. Oh, like one was legitimately, I was coming back at it was late at night, and then like you're supposed to have a different color on the nozzle anyway, right? Like
Right.
hey,
Green.
diesel,
Green
yes,
is diesel.
yes,
Yeah, you're
yes.
right.
Now this station didn't have the green. So and then like if somebody else did it, then it shouldn't be my fault, right? They can go after the gas station. I had the receipt and everything, but whatever. So but no
You've been
gas.
scolded. You've been scolded.
I have been.
You've
I
been
still
scolded.
I still
Hey,
get
so you've had that. What about if someone puts sugar in your tank? I mean, you can't tell me nobody's attempted to, come at you with some sugar in your tank.
I've never had sugar in my tank.
Did you just knock on wood?
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
thanks, Ken. Thanks for putting that out there. Now I
Yeah.
got some wood. I got you.
Yeah. That's not cool. That's not cool at all. But I mean, now that this stuff's in the headlines, and I
Right.
mean, thankfully, like you guys didn't even have gas to buy, but in certain places in like Virginia, North Carolina, gas is regular was $7 a gallon. So I mean, this is now once again, right? Like I think solar winds was confusing, right? I don't think people understood what that actually meant or did.
Right. Well,
But
you do. I mean,
gas thing hits
we
everybody.
still don't know what it's going to do. Like this isn't gone. Solar winds is not done. That's still, there's more things that are going to come. You're right. It's going to come from everywhere, and it's going to be, you're going to go, oh my Lord, it traces back to that. You're right. We have no idea what's going to happen still.
Yeah. So, but the gas thing that hits everybody, right? I mean,
Right.
whether it's home heating fuel, or you can't drive to work without dropping a couple $100. Yeah, $7 a gallon is no joke.
Well, and then it also, I mean, first of all, yeah, you're going to see price gouging, right? You're going to definitely see that. And then what about the folks, the not so ethical folks, that are watering down the gas? So now you get your gas, right? And they're trying, oh yeah, some of these gas stations, George, man, I'm telling you, like, you go to these gas stations and you wonder why they're 20 cents cheaper than, the guy down the street. And
does your car can't handle that much water in your gallon of gas?
That's what I'm saying. Like, and I don't know if it's necessarily watered down. I just know it's diluted so that they're not paying as much for the gas that they're putting out. Do you know what I'm saying? So you're getting a little bit of a mix. And I know that that's happened before, maybe not as much now, but I have seen that in the past. I wonder, hey, listen, we're going to get more bang for our buck. The prices are higher because we can gouge people. And then also we're using less gas. We're giving them less gas in their tanks. You ever go to a crappy little gas station and get gas and your car just doesn't run right? Doesn't feel.
I try and stay away from those.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. You probably do that. I'm just saying, like, those types of gas stations could possibly do that as well.
I guess that's what the dealer said when he said high volume gas stations. Very important. Very important. Here we go. We got another one. Darren says, also consider what possible better ways are to push a massive EV infrastructure agenda when they're having an incident like that. Makes you wonder. Well, it's funny, Darren, because France literally has like the entire, even narrowed down to just Paris. I think Paris just put 500 electric cars in a field because they literally can't afford to send them off to pasture because there's really no recycling outlet for the batteries. So all of a sudden, this whole electric thing I mean, if you can't recycle the car and you can't do anything with it when it's done, then did you really get anywhere? I don't know.
So you're gonna have new junkyards for the electric cars?
I mean, those diesel Volkswagens are still sitting in Michigan in almost like football field style parking lots. But yeah, it's absolutely the same case with these electric cars. So, and by the way, they said 2% of America is running on electric cars. And by the way, even though the electric, stations like, the Tesla superchargers, whatever, are becoming more available, now they're going to start charging for them, and the cost of electricity is going up. So did the reward for the electric car already come back and bite you? I don't know.
Right.
I mean, like, speaking about the electric car, and since we're talking about Volkswagen, I couldn't help but bring this up. Not that this is my favorite website or anything, but
My favorite website. Here it comes.
Here you go. Would you buy this car? Would you buy this electric Volkswagen self-driving van, microbus?
No.
Well, but all of the manufacturers, before 2030 seem to be going to be almost an all electric lineup. So are you even going to be able to buy the gas or diesel option?
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. Well, you see, Domino's has their own self-driving electric delivery vehicle, right?
I was waiting for the drone.
Right.
I was waiting for the Domino's drone to come by and drop off. And speaking of that, where's the Amazon drone?
Right. Although I already thought they had them because some of the Amazon orders were pretty damn quick. When I was doing the Amazon business orders, I would order something at like 9 a.m. and it would be at my door at 1 p.m. And I'm like, how do they even do that?
You're in a major city, right?
Yeah. That was, I was right on the Cloverleaf at the time, right? 93, 128, the two major highways intersect. So, but it was interesting to see deliveries coming the same day.
Well, here you go. Darren said, charging a non-Tesla is indeed very expensive based on my experience with the Mach-E so far. Dude, I mean, I know you can drop, what is it, $1,000 or $1,500 to get the charging station installed at your house, right?
But they're also, just so you know, in a lot of cities, they'll do that for free. If you go to the electric company and say, hey, I'm going to do this, they'll either split the cost or you do get that at a discounted rate. I have seen that. Businesses get it more than just your regular homeowners do, but one of the previous MSPs that I was running, we did get an electric car because the owner was crazy about getting one. And I will admit, they got a charging station installed for almost nothing because of all the incentives and rebates that they were giving them for switching. Now, this was quite a few years ago when it first started. What you might be saying may be true is that it's starting to come around and there's going to be more charges and all of that.
Like the major highway going into Philadelphia, not that everybody watching this is driving to Philadelphia, 76, I-76, which I try and avoid for many reasons, other than I call it the parking lot. They're trying to do a European play where they're trying to do the UK-ish, change the speed limit thing, variable speed limit. But then, like, coming back to, I'm thinking about the UK, and they just did this whole variable speed thing, which, by the way, is completely garbage. Doesn't work. It's been proven. It's a waste of money. Is this congestion tax, right? Like, if you're driving through certain zones, you either pay or you don't. It's almost like another tax for driving through major congested areas. And they're like, oh, but if you're driving a gas or diesel vehicle, you'll pay this versus electric. I don't know. Bottom line is, people need to move around. I get it. I understand the concept of never owning a vehicle. I don't think that's realistic if you're living in a suburban or a rural area and you're not in the downtown area. It brings me back to that thought of Minority Report. Remember that movie with Cruise?
Tom Cruise, Tom Cruise.
Yeah. Where your car like automatically goes where it has to go unless you're outside of the major city and it has to like convert into driving mode. It's the same thing. So, I mean, nobody's a fan of traffic. Now that everybody's kind of started coming out and like COVID is hopefully on the tail end, the traffic is back. It's definitely Sunday. These Sunday drivers are definitely out. Not on Sunday, but on every day of the week, where it's just like, dude.
Yeah.
At least drive 100%. The speed limit, please. So yeah.
I've driven with George. You're not talking about speed limit, my friend. So let's just get past.
All right.
But can we get back to something that you touched on a little bit with this whole hack, the pipeline hack, and just, when's enough? Like, everything's been publicized, everybody's been hit. We see it with PSA tools, we see RMM tools, we see major MSPs, we see even security companies, and we see now a pipeline. And when is it enough for people to wake up and say, we need to do this now? Like, we joked about it before, like, oh, now people are going to see this because this company got hacked. And then, nope, a week later, somebody else gets hacked. And we're talking about months after we talked.
Well, I mean, again, I don't want to get super conspiracy theory guy here, but if there's only so many pipelines that feed different parts of the country or the world and they get shut down, or they disrupt the connectivity or the communication, right? I mean, I'm not trying to go too far off the path here, but internet outages in the US are up dramatically. Yeah. Like, is this now the state of play, right? Like, I'm not, is this the state sponsored actor? Is this some kid in his basement? Is this some guy in China in a cabal? I don't know. I mean, but the internet keeps on going down. These major utilities are starting to get hit. I mean,
what
does it require laws? I don't think laws work here. I think it's like, dude, you just gotta either you're gonna get burned or you're not. Don't do it.
Yeah, and the thing is that in 99% of these instances, if you would just follow on best practices and you use the right tools and you have the right education, these wouldn't have happened. There would have been no way they would have happened. MFA, password management, education, phishing tools, all the right things and they're not that expensive. As MSPs, the MSPs are using these tools and implementing them in their clients. Why is it so difficult? Why is it, oh, we're just going to overlook this? It's either people are in jobs that they're not supposed to be in, collecting that check, not really doing anything to keep up with the positions. Because are we hearing about anybody getting fired for these things happening, for allowing this to happen? All we're hearing about is, well, we didn't pay the ransom. Well, we did pay the ransom. How is that even okay?
Well, I think where people might get burned is I read a couple of articles coming out saying that the insurance carriers out of Europe are starting to not pay out on the claims for this. Listen, this is Europe. It's not the US, but it's a small world and the internet makes things pretty instant.
Right.
I mean, everybody at this point has to have some sort of cyber coverage, even if it's just to cover yourself at some level. But if they stop paying, that's very expensive problem.
Yeah, it's just, to me, it's very interesting to see how we always thought, hey, listen, when some of these things start hitting the news and it starts affecting people everybody, things are going to start to change. They have to start changing. And then you see something like this where not only did they get hacked, but it didn't take much work. And they were using XP systems and it's just across the board, it's just complete.
Well, and the problem with these hackers, right? We talk about backup. That's the right way. But our friend Darren, who's always checking in here, he sent me an article, I think yesterday, where they do a double encryption. Right? They give you the key and you think, oh, I'm home free. I actually got it. And then they get you again.
Yeah.
And it's right. Like, dude, they're not going to play fair. They're already crooks.
Yeah. I was going to say, wait a minute. So they're criminals and now you're expecting them to actually play fair. Yeah, you're right. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. Darren says he misses XP. Stop dissing it.
You know what's funny? I knew Darren was going to throw something out there about XP. And Darren sent a really cool picture of the PAX 8 socks too with the girl. He connected up with the girls at an event and was holding up his socks. It was a good photo.
Well, since we were on it, I can't help but do a drive-by here. It's not Volkswagen, it's not some electric car, but if you got an order in for a Tesla, you might be waiting for a while because it looks like there's a 10,000 car hold.
Wow. Wow.
Doesn't that suck?
Yeah.
I always heard.
Do you have one on order, George?
No. I like my. Listen, I'm for the first time since 2007, I think, I'm not driving a diesel car. I really am not happy about it, but I'd rather go back to diesel than go to electric. That's my 2 cents. But if you're waiting for a Tesla, here you go. You're standing in line. Looks like a parking lot like everybody else. So
Yeah.
there you go, Tesla fans.
Yeah. No. One of the many reasons I'm not that worried about climbing on board.
Yeah, but you've said, especially recently, that you can't get Ubers and Lyfts by you.
Oh, no, you can't. There's no, I got back into Boston on our last trip after your kickoff and was in the airport till 1 a.m. because there was no Ubers, no Lyfts, and I had to stand in a cab line. Think about that. I can't remember the last time I took a cab and I had to wait. And then the cab driver reminded me of why I don't like cabs the whole way back, complaining about Uber and Lyft. And like, dude, I just want to go home. It's 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, but I mean, like, people are doing less kind of gig economy stuff, right? A lot of those Uber and Lyft drivers would do a couple hours a day just for some side cash, and yes, there's people.
Some of them would be a bit aggressive. They would do a lot of hours, and we've heard stories of Uber and Lyft drivers making 6 figures, right?
It's crazy.
Now they're collecting unemployment, so the lazy ones are like, hey, I don't have to drive. I can just sit back and collect a check. And I couldn't get here. I had to wake up my wife to drive me to the airport because both Uber and Lyft does the thing where it tells you it's coming, tells you nothing happens. You go to Uber and Uber just goes, hey man, no cars available. So I had to wake up my wife, get a ride to the airport at 6 o'clock in the morning. So that wasn't a very fun time for me or her. But yeah, man, who would have thunk that there wouldn't be one single car available to drive you to the airport of all places? It's not that big a deal where I'm from. It's like 10, 15 minutes away.
That's craziness, man. That's absolute craziness. But that goes to show you, right? This concept of, oh, you don't need a car. I mean,
Darren says maybe I'm banned.
Well, Darren, you got plenty of ways to get around. Ken may be banned, but you're good. Don't worry about him. But yeah, no, it's interesting, right? I mean, do all these things come back to full throttle once everything's going again? I don't know, but you like before,
it's gonna
you might like surge pricing may not look.
Yeah, I don't think that at this point it's not COVID related that these people are not driving. They're getting money. They're getting money from unemployment that's just unprecedented. And we saw this in Texas, George. We went to a hotel at 10 o'clock at night, and they said your room's not ready. And I'm like, I'm supposed to check in at 4. I'm here 6 hours later. And you're telling me nobody could get to the room. And we come to find out all the employees stopped working because they could collect unemployment instead of going to work.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's crazy.
Not good. Like, people literally need to help turn it all back on. But I guess
George, Marie just sent me a note saying, hey, if you're in Texas, I'll always give you a ride.
You might have to take her up on that.
We might have to actually do this, George. We might have to use our connections and say, hey, I'm in Texas. Can
you pick me up?
Can someone give me a ride?
Why not? That's how it used to be, right?
Right. Well, that's true. Yeah. It'll be the new friend share car ride setup,
Yeah. Did you hear that AT&T sold HBO and CNN to Discovery to make like a new super network?
I did not hear that.
Wow. For those entertainment buffs out there. $42 billion. They sold HBO and CNN to Discovery, which owns like 10 channels.
Yep.
Wow. That's
interesting. Not surprising, but interesting with everything that's going on and how, Disney almost owns everything. They all got to compete, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. Like the one headline, Yahoo's still a thing. The one headline is AT&T admits a terrible mistake getting into the media business with Discovery deal. Okay.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, that's that. I'd like to have the backstory on that. Maybe that's going to be a documentary.
Well, it's a money story, right? They said they bought their media pieces from Time Warner for $85 billion 3 years ago, and then only ended up selling it off to Discovery for 42. So they took a 50% loss. Right,
but is it a loss when you're talking about monopoly money at this point?
I mean, it's still like somebody's still there's still shareholders.
Yeah, somebody, the shareholders maybe.
Yeah.
Not the actual sea level folks. They're feeling pretty good all the way through all of this.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of documentaries, I did take your advice and watch Wall Street, and
Oh yeah.
I gotta admit, it was impressive. Impressive. I mean, I knew the dude worked hard. There was no question about that, but I didn't know he worked that hard. And dude, COVID, talk about every one of your businesses being just completely shut down at one time. There's like not one industry that guy's into that didn't get shut down by COVID.
Every single one. Here you go.
Right.
Here you go. Wall Street.
Yeah, that was good. It's still good. I watched the whole season. It was really good. It's interesting. Like some of the people in there, I didn't realize that he was still connected to all these local people. He's still got his boys from the Funky Bunch hanging out with him on the, doing their thing. Like, I love that. He's still, he made a comment. He's like, look, I do business with people I like, and then people that I have this connection with. He goes, and that may be wrong in some cases, but that's how I do things. And I kind of like the way he still had that mentality. He wasn't like scared off by it, because we've seen, like MC Hammer, right? He basically gave everybody he ever knew a job and then went bankrupt because of it, right? He just took care of everybody, and then the money went out the window really fast. I like how Mark did it, his setup, but also noticed something different about him was he doesn't give anybody a free ride.
No.
He makes them work. He makes them like the guy from the clothing company that was working with them, and he's like, look, the investors pulled out because of COVID, because they can't, they don't know what to expect. We're in. Are you? And he still made that dude put his full third in, right? And that guy had to put all his skin in the game to just be a part of these superstars. That was like, dropping the bucket to them. So, and there's something to be said about that, right? Mark could have just given that away, but at the same time, teaching this person, hey, you got to have skin in the game.
Yeah, I mean, listen. Now, everybody thinks money just shows up, and you just have to show up, clock in, and it's all going to work. But at some point, somebody actually has to do some work, right?
My favorite line, though, George. It was a horrible thing, but my favorite line was when he didn't know what was going on from a Wahlburgers perspective, and he reached out to the investor and
how many stores are open?
How many stores are open right now? And he's like, 0. I was like, you see his face, you could see the pain in his face. You know what's also interesting? He wasn't so much worried about the money as he was worried about the franchisees and the people that work for them.
That's true. He did say that. He's like, how are these people going to pay their bills?
Right. So he's like, essentially they depend on me. Right. And I thought that was really interesting. And the other part that was really, really interesting was not just the fact that he cared about that aspect of it, but I never realized that Mark is really the guy when it comes to Wahlburgers. I always thought Donnie had a lot more play in there but he didn't. He had nothing to do with it, really. It's all Mark. Every decision went through Mark. And funny thing is, everything they said about Wahlburgers was true. The service is really bad. Like, that guy ripped them apart from Apex.
The outside consultant. Yeah.
Right. And then Apex wanted in, but they wanted more than, way too much. So he had to just go hire a CEO. So I think it's cool kind of going down the right path with some of these things, but a lot of interesting little tips and tricks that kind of came out of this with how much that guy was dealing with. I mean, his gym is shut down, his restaurant shut down, the clothing line that was supposed to launch didn't even get launched. And then his movie business, right? He was in the middle of shooting a movie and then it shut down.
Well, I mean, listen, I think, I'm hoping he's in a better place now, right? I mean, a year's gone by since probably that filming ended, right? So,
yeah, probably close to a year. I mean, they were getting into the thick of COVID. So it might be less than a year even, because that was pretty close. The timeline was getting pretty close. And there was at one point where they opened the gyms for 2 weeks and then they had to
shut down again. Yeah.
Talk about, that's like your psych moment, right? Psych. Here you go. Here's your gym. No, psych.
Yeah. Well, good news is that was a microcosm of probably what everybody in our little sample went through, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do I hold on to my people? Do I let go of people? My customer's still going to be here. I actually think, and I know it's all talking head, cliches, but I have heard of some people starting to have those customers. It was like that 6-month delay, right?
Right.
Where like the world was all starting to be affected. And then like they always say that there's a delay between the people who are in our sandbox before they feel certain things kind of matriculating through. I've talked to some people who said business is good. They've picked up new customers, but now all of a sudden some of the people that they thought were okay finally took a hit, right? Finally
Right.
either shrunk down to a point where, you know, their services like didn't even make sense delivering money wise, or like those people never turned around on recovery right away kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I guess like, you know, we heard people from all across the spectrum, right? Some people did really good marketing during the beginning of it. So they were like actually grew, right? And it's interesting, right? You start to see all of the vendors, at least the ones that have to publicly report their earnings, had grew through that entire period.
Right. Right.
I mean, like D&H, I just saw an article literally 10 seconds ago said they grew by 19%. 19% in the last 14 months. And I'm like, okay, well, that's through the middle of the pandemic, but now you can't even get a laptop. So I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Right. It's pretty interesting to see all that flow and all that, you know, and then look at, we had MSPs that did such a major pivot in the middle of it, right? Because, you know, we have Vegas who was doing mostly restaurants. So what happened there? The casinos, the restaurants, and then he made a pivot at the right time to cannabis, and the cannabis companies were skyrocketing. So they need, you know, say what you will, like it or don't like it, it's a business, and they need security, and they need protection, and they need to be able to work from home, and they need all the things that were going on in every other world. Cannabis was the same thing, and he made that shift, and it worked out like gangbusters. And now the casinos and restaurants are coming back, and he now still has this extra vertical that he's working on. So being able to pivot like that, I think
one of the MSPs we had on from the last tour run, I have to go back and remember, but he said he was like partnering up with incident response companies and like literally, you know, breaking out huge blocks of hours, right, to kind of rebuild networks and stuff coming off of these events. I didn't even think about that, right? Like I didn't even realize that was a place where, you know, if you had a labor and you could offload it, right? In terms of, hey, I got 10 guys on my team, 5 guys on my team, but really only 50% of our time's utilized, taking a 30 or 40% of my available time and going and trying to do these incident response projects. Never even occurred to me until that very call. So there's a lot of ways people have kind of morphed through this.
Yeah. And there's also the co-opetition, right? The MSPs that are now working with each other more than they ever have, just in general, you know, and I love that part of it, right? Our community actually pulling together and stopping that castle mentality that you love to talk about, right? And actually working together. And, you know, I'm seeing more and more of it where, you know, guys out in Portland are dealing with guys down in Texas, and they're just so spread out, but there's services that one provides and the other one doesn't, and they can work together, and they're training each other, they're cross training each other on the things that they're doing. That's the type of stuff that I see from a standpoint of the positive thing that's going to come out of all this is MSPs are very smart people, right? It's a group of really, really smart, inventive people. And my thought process behind this, and I know Tim Choquette, I won't steal his thunder because he had talked about this a bunch too, is that at some point, we really believe that all these MSPs that are getting together, we're going to get together and invent something new. There's going to be something new that comes out of all of this, because the brain power that's now working together instead of against each other, just too massive to not have that happen. And I'm really excited about that. Like, I can't wait to see some iteration come out of all this, because the MSPs are now doing so much collaboration.
I mean, but hasn't that already been happening the whole time? I mean,
not as much.
Well, but look how many companies have come out of the MSP space, right? Came out of an IT services company because there was a gap, and then they went and built something. There's a lot of those. I understand some have sold. Darren was very vocal about who not to sell to, but in his opinion. But I mean, there's a lot of success stories, right? Not even US and Canada. There's a lot of success stories globally on that front, right? Where people started SaaS companies, software companies out of the space because they felt something was not working, right? So, or could be better, or could be different. So I do think it has been happening. I think maybe it'll happen more.
I think it's happening at a higher scale. That's my point.
Yeah.
Of course it was happening. I mean, before I joined Pax8, my whole everything I did, you know, blowing up my MSP and being able to sell it, blowing up other MSPs that I worked with, wasn't because I have some special skill set like some people do. I don't. I'm not saying that but I guess I do. My special skill set was I learned how to listen. And it was because of the collaboration with other MSPs, right? I always listened to other people and what they did. And then I took my little nuggets and turned it into my own thing. And then our companies, those companies blew up, right?
Right.
And so, yes, it was happening, but it just seems now that it's happening at a much larger scale. And there's much more of these people connecting. Even the Zoom thing, as much as we say, oh, I'd much rather be in person, and that's still true. It has brought on some new things like this, like we're doing this, like our community calls where we wouldn't see those 30 people every week like we do now because of Zoom. And that connection right there has brought a lot of companies together, right? We're on the community call and then somebody says, hey, who's this person, George, on your call? Love to talk to them, right? It's growing because of all of this. It's been sped up, just like security, just like cloud. This collaboration has now been sped up.
Sure, 100%, no question about it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for all those people who are standing in line for a normal Tesla, I think your Tesla truck's going to be really behind. But would you drive this thing? I don't know.
I don't see it. I still don't see it.
I think it looks ugly.
Yeah. I mean, it looks like it belongs on the moon, and that's fine. And
What's that 80s movie with Running Man? Schwarzenegger kind of feels like it belongs something like that.
Right. On Mars.
Yeah.
On Mars. No, not Running Man. Oh, Running Man. Yeah, that was the car inside one of those things. I was thinking of oh God, the one.
I know which one you're talking about, where they go to Mars and they're running out of air.
And then they redid the movie again. What that? Oh, now that's gonna kill me. That's I know.
Total Recall.
Oh, thanks, Marie. See, yeah, Total Recall. They redid it recently.
Yeah, the remake wasn't too good.
They never usually are, but I watched it because it's action and I like Colin Farrell, so it was all right. They changed it up too. They did change it up a bit.
No, some of the remakes are bad.
Yes.
Into it. I mean, there's more bad than good. I mean,
this is true. This is true. You're right.
I mean, the Tron remake wasn't bad.
Yeah, my son got into the old Tron
and so dry.
And then watched the new one and was like, yeah, this is pretty good.
Yeah. I watched the new Tron before the old Tron. I went back to watch the 80s Tron. I'm like, I don't know if I would have liked this movie.
Hey, we talked about Mark Wahlberg. Did you see the remade, the TV spinoff of Spencer for Hire?
No.
Spencer? Seriously? I figured all the stuff that you watched, you would have watched that. It's a quick.
Yeah, but you've thrown some stuff my way. Stripes. I never watched Stripes.
I know. I can't believe you never watched Stripes.
I never watched Stripes.
But when you watched it, you were thankful.
I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. Because it had all the Ghostbuster guys in there. I mean.
Yeah, exactly. But I'll tell you, go get, I don't think it's called Spencer for Hire. It's like Spencer something or other. But look up Spencer by Mark Wahlberg. It's based in Boston, of course. And it's because the old TV series was based in Boston. So it's Mark putting his spin on the Spencer thing. But it's pretty good. It's just
all right. I'll give you a couple. I'll give you a couple of hints or tips since you're giving me some things to watch. How about on HBO Max, Generation Hustle? It's about all these modern day scams and con artists, and they got the episode 2 was the WeWork story.
Oh.
So there's 10 episodes that I think you'll find mighty interesting.
Nice.
And then multiple people now have come and told me that the series on Netflix, Jupiter something or other.
Yeah, someone else just told me about that too. I don't know if it was Alec. It might have been.
I think it was Alec. Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody just told me about that one too and said it was really good.
So there's some TV to watch if you're running out of stuff. Although some stuff's coming back. The Boys on Amazon Prime if you're into the more R-rated stuff. But it's very interesting. Kind of. Take on superheroes. I think that's coming back, and then all the Star Trek stuff's starting to come bleed back in Q3 here, right? Like Discovery, and I think.
So where's all the Star Wars stuff, right? Kenobi was supposed to be released. There's a few of those, right?
Mandalorian did a great job.
Oh, Mandalorian was great, but they were supposed to release the Ewan McGregor's version of Kenobi because he's at the right age where he can play Kenobi in that middle area. That was supposed to come out, and then you got the Marvel stuff, right? Fury was supposed to come out, the backstory on Fury. And then what was one of the other ones? There was another one that was supposed to be pushed out and supposed to be really good. I can't even think of what the heck it was, but yes,
Well, on Disney,
by COVID.
on Disney Plus, right? You got, the new generation Mighty Ducks with Bombay, Coach Bombay. Hey, I got myself the Mighty Ducks hoodie.
I know you do. I know. And I was a fan for a little bit, but you know me and my hockey, like, man, someone's really going to break out a lasso and rope somebody on the ice. Come on.
None of that happened so far. So for whatever it's worth. So, and then you have Uncle Jesse coming back as a college D1 college.
Oh yeah, girls basketball.
Yeah,
I did see that. I saw that trailer.
Yeah.
Hey, did you see? Well, I'm going to tell you two things, and you're going to probably laugh. There's people on the bus that never even heard of or seen anything to do with Hitman's Bodyguard.
What?
I'm like, are you insane? That's one of the best movies. It's so funny, right? And then, because I brought up, I'm like, hey, did you see Hitman Bodyguard 2 is coming out? Right? I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
Come on. It's the Hitman's Bodyguard's wife, right? Hitman's wife's bodyguard or whatever. And they all like, what's Hitman's Bodyguard? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. There's some.
I'm lost.
It's interesting when you put people on a bus for a while, crazy things come out. There should be a predefined movie list that's matriculated through on the bus, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, we got people to watch movies they didn't watch before, right? We got Taylor to watch Training Day. I don't think she'll ever be the same after watching that movie.
I mean, that's educational. There's just nothing else to say about that one.
I can watch that movie over and over again.
But then what did we watch? What movie did she make us watch?
She made us watch like She's All That. Yeah. With what's his name? Really young. What's the kid's name? Channing Tatum.
Yeah.
It was a cute little funny movie. It wasn't horrible type of thing. But yeah, she made us watch it. We watched it.
It was watched.
It was watched. We're not gonna. Maybe we just not confirm or deny that report.
Darren says She's All That is great, almost as good as 10 Things I Hate About You. Yeah, I hear you, Darren. I hear you loud.
Yeah, and I never saw that movie, so now we're gonna watch it on the bus or something.
100%. Any interesting stories come out of yesterday? I mean, you were in the parking lot with 25, 30 people.
Yeah. It was just, well, first of all, it's interesting, the whole mask thing, the change with the mask thing, right? We want, how we are. We want to be cognizant of everybody's feelings. We don't want to just jump right in. You and I have had many conversations about when this happens, what are we going to do? Do we jump right in? Do we not? We don't want to make anybody feel a certain way. And I think we handled it right. We were like, we talked to the people. We know whatever CDC is telling us to do in each location is what we're going to abide by. And then all of a sudden, everything got stripped. Even New York is like, yeah, we're done. Masks are out, right? So we're like, okay, but we're not going to do this. We're not going to just do it, hey, let's get, and, get all close and, sing songs. We still did the social distancing and people were very appreciative.
I saw your chairs were split up.
Yeah, the chairs were separated, everything was good from that standpoint. And the stories were, things are just getting better. They're really happy with the speed at which now things seem to be moving. People are feeling more comfortable, whether it be the vaccination or the fact that just we're getting out in the open and things are changing. There's a mix, right, of how people feel. We talked to some vendors who were like, yeah, man, I really love this bus thing, but we were a little nervous. We didn't want to put our people out there, and we're responsible for them ultimately for their health. If we put them,
I mean, if we believe the numbers, there was like 600 people down in Florida last week.
Right. So, people are excited to get back out. Things are going to start to open up. The events are going to be big. I do foresee things like Exchange and IT Nation and DattoCon, wherever that opens up, being pretty large events. I think that we've seen hints of that. We've always tried to be cognizant of the size of our events, because even though, sure, we love a whole bunch of people, we don't want to have some kind of, a crowded parking lot where we're shoulder to shoulder. And that doesn't, that defeats all our purposes, right? Because we want people to be able to converse, have that open, comfortable feeling. So we've always been cognizant of keeping the numbers at a certain rate. We have maximums and all that stuff, not just from a COVID standpoint, but we want our people to be able to have that conversation and chat.
Mm-hmm.
yesterday was a pretty good indication, right? 20 people show up for the first event in a place where that's not known for the events for these type of events just pop up and work because it's free. They're MSPs. They got stuff to do. There's always something that pops up. I mean, how many times at an event, we get an email from someone saying, dude, sorry, I got a fire to put out, right? And then they can't make it out. I get it. I was in those shoes. So that happens quite a bit. But yesterday we got 20 people showed up, maybe more with the people that were in and out. I didn't even actually check the solid number, but to have that happen in a place that typically we haven't had that success because of, like I said, all those factors was a good kind of a telltale sign that I think for the rest of this tour. I mean, today it's raining out. It's possible that it's going to clear up. MSPs are like, it's kind of yucky out. I just might not show up, right? But I do think the numbers are going to climb because of how it's opening up a bit. And that's a good sign because I do believe that the in-person changes everything. And remember, we've been on both sides of this, George, right? We do these Zoom things all the time, but we've also been on the bus with people and that face-to-face interaction. Perfect example. And I only have this in my head because it really happened. So it's not just a bvoip thing, but yesterday at the event, the host who met George on the last tour decided that he wanted to use bvoip. So there's a win, right? There was no sales pitch. George didn't say, hey, I got to tell you about bvoip. It wasn't even like that at all. He mentioned he was having issues with VoIP stuff. George said, hey, I do that if you want to talk about it. It was a great conversation back and forth. They decided to go at bvoip. This trip we show up, he brings his whole team out and wants to make sure that they meet Alec and just say, hey, this is what bvoip has done for us over the last year. This was great. That was great. And then proceeded to introduce them to the people they knew at the event. That's something that doesn't happen through Zoom. That doesn't happen. So that's the type of thing, like that interaction was great. And then it was hearing people come up and just give props to whatever vendor, myself included, when they come up and say, hey, you guys did this last week and it was awesome. And it was, you don't get that because they're not popping into Zoom you and tell you that stuff. We even had one of the guys come out with crutches. That's how bad he wanted to come out. And the poor guy had to leave, almost halfway through because his leg was getting numb. But he wanted to make sure that he got a point that he got in the car and drove out there after he had just had a surgery and, came out to the event. That's the kind of cool stuff that you just don't see. Like these people wanted to be in the face-to-face. It's someone that I had met before, by the way. It's a PAX-A partner that I'm mentoring, but we've done it all through Zoom and he wanted to come out and meet face-to-face. So yeah, it's very missed, as you can tell by me and George, because the two of us went from taking a bus to the last standing event that went away to, we need to get in front of people. We need to see people. It's just what we do. This community is built that way. And so, yeah, I think it's all going to blow up, George. I think we're going to be able to do some really cool things. Of course, if all of you know George, there's some ideas spinning around and up in that head of his, and we're going to find ways to augment it as the times change, right? The bus tour may augment into something else to better exemplify doing it in the new environment. But some cool things coming from MSP Initiative too that I really, really think I'm super excited about. And like I said, I think the community is going to blow up with these events. We're going to start seeing people in person again.
Yeah, we still got to figure out the rest of the year, but if all these things do happen the way they say they will,
right?
Sounds like everybody's clamoring to come back out. We would question that though, right? We were like, it might be slow. We'll see.
Well, how could you know, right? I mean, look at how fast things are changing just with the CDC. They have more information than any of us. They get data than any of us, and they are still confused. There's still things that, listen, I feel right, wrong, or indifferent. I do feel a little bad for the position that they're in, right? Because they have all this data coming in and they have all this pressure to give it to the American people. But sometimes they're giving data out that changes 15 minutes after they put it out, right? Because it's just coming in so fast. So if they are having that trouble, think about what we're doing kind of in the middle. Like, do we think there's going to be people coming out? Do we think this still works? Is there, it's such a mixed thing. There's so much emotion that goes into it and fear that goes into it, right? Yeah, it's really tough to kind of make those decisions when even people like,
it was a lot easier to make. Yeah, it was a lot easier to make a decision when it wasn't that expensive to go there.
Right.
all of a
Yeah.
sudden you go to book your vacation trip, and now the price is $1,000 for a plane ticket that was 200 before. But
I felt that pain because I was doing the same thing. We were planning our trip. We usually go to Disney World with the family, and there's 12 of us. And yeah, that this year was more difficult than it's ever been, and I'm calling the airlines like, hey, this plane is completely empty. Why are you charging 4 times as much? And they're like, because it's completely empty, right? You kind of can't argue with their logic. They're like, listen, through COVID, we were giving flights for $30 just to get people on flights to be able to get places. Now, how are we supposed to recoup that? Well, now we see how they're going to get it through us, right? It's the only way they know how to. So in some ways, as a business owner, you can kind of understand what they're trying to do. But as someone who's trying to get on a plane and knows that it's, 3 or 4 times more than it would have been, that it is frustrating to try to figure that stuff out.
let's hope all of those flight credits from 2019
Yeah.
to 2020. I hope they're still valid. I hope they still take them, or they're
I
just.
used.
It's gonna be like the Kohl's play, right? It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this shirt's $50, but it's 50% off, and it's like, okay, so it's a $25 shirt because that's usually what it is, but I got a deal.
Right. Yeah, and I'll tell you that I did use for my flights that I've been using on the Channel Strong Tour to get out have been done through credits, through my older credits. So that has been working for the most case. Initially, there was this, oh, these are going to expire moment, and I called and said, this doesn't make sense. You guys told us that this was happening. I couldn't go on any of these flights because there was no way you could fly. And then they were like, oh, yeah, you're right. We're good with these. Just make sure you use these, as you're going forward. It's like, well, of course, I'm going to try to use them. I'm not going to the same places, so I need the money in a bank. But
Yeah.
so, yeah, and it ended up working out. I have used the travel bank for all the stuff that I had stored up. And that was funny. We talked about that, right? I get this spreadsheet from PAX 8 saying, hey, by the way, when things come back, can you do your flights? I'm like, yeah, sure. I don't think it's that many. And then send me a spreadsheet and there was like 14 flights or something on it. I'm like,
the talking
forget about how much.
The talking heads did say they think that this summer might be the busiest travel summer in 20 years.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I'm hoping that a lot of it's like Aruba and places like that. So I can still do my vacation in Florida, just silly old Florida, right?
Yeah, Aruba, Bahamas.
Right, because that's where George, a lot of people have been going there now. I told you every week, new sets of friends are always saying, hey, in Aruba this week. Hey, I'm in Aruba. I'm like, wow, this is crazy. But I'll tell you this, I just talked to my buddy who got back from Aruba on Sunday or Saturday, and he said he had the same problems that we had in Texas. No workers. Yep. He went to a hotel. They said, hey, we're upgrading you. He's like, oh, great. They went to the hotel. It was a downgrade completely. He's like, what's going on here? They're like, well, we got to be honest with you. We can't keep the other hotel. We don't have staff.
Wow. That's crazy. Well, let's hope that people start to find themselves back into the workforce.
Yeah.
Ken, appreciate you dialing in from the road. I'm sure we'll check in a little bit more this week than we normally do, but MSP Initiative Live every Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 o'clock Eastern time. We record them all. They're on mspinitiative.com under sessions. You can always go backwards, fast forward, rewind, download, delete, just not from the website.
Hey,
So
how about a little note about Thursday's guest, because I think that's going to be a really cool session.
Who's Thursday's guest?
Oh, good Lord. Rex Frank.
Okay, very nice.
Frank from Sea Level, fresh from the PAX 8 acquisition. So I think that you two are going to have a lot to talk about. And I think really, really great session.
Last time I was with Frank, it was with me, Frank, and a couple other people standing in a courtyard kind of area with Arnie Bellini.
There you go.
It's been a couple years. But yeah, well, that will be an interesting conversation on Thursday, 1 o'clock Eastern time. Don't miss it. Don't forget Channel Strong Tour. Don't forget the monthly prize giveaway. Throw your name in to win. We will see you back on back on this Zoom, 1 o'clock on Thursday. Watch us online as we go through Middle America. Catch you guys later.
Nice.
All right. Take it easy, Ken.